I had met with Rennie Harlin, who was the director, and I just worked with him on a picture called Prison, who was produced by Irwin Yablans, and I think it was Rennie's first American movie. He wanted me involved somehow with the new Nightmare movie, and they wanted to come up with a really good screwball idea, and what they came up with specifically was this nightmare pizza. Basically, all of the souls of the dead children were now sort of like turned into meatballs and put on top of this pizza from hell, as you will. And so it's essentially soul food, as it were. And he wanted to do something wacky whereby you saw this pizza and all these little meatballs have human faces on it and they're all screaming, help me, ah! So we created a radio-controlled pizza, which had little foam rubber meatball heads with faces that would scream, even little tongues that would move around. But the creme de la creme, the piece de resistance, was when Freddy took one of his finger claws and went, basically poked one of the meatball heads and scooped it out. Says, I think he said, Rick, you little meatball.
That was one day my father visited me on the set, was on Rennie Harlin's Nightmare on Elm Street 4, and they had me literally maquetted with a Makita tool up to a giant plywood mock-up to match me in with a giant oversized chest of souls that actually had actors playing the faces. That was done by Steve Johnson, and I remember that day, and I was like literally crucified and up there for about 10 hours, and my dad visited me on the set, you know. It's like, my son, the classically trained actor, you know.
I remember that when I saw 3, it was actually within a week that I got the call to do part 4. And the night that I saw part 3, I thought, boy, I would really like to work on a Nightmare on Elm Street film. And so there you go, synchronicity once again. In any case, this is one of the series of effects that we did for the film, for the finale. The way this particular effect worked was we had Robert Englund in his Freddy Krueger makeup, and we had a wall behind him. We cut a hole in the wall, and we stuck Robert through like this. So his real arms and his head and his chest came out this side of the wall, and his body was in the back.
1, 2, 3, go.
We wanted to have these souls break out of Freddy in a very surrealistic way, not do it in a real bloody way that would be off-putting, because all the Nightmare on Elm Street films were very surrealistic. And they weren't necessarily gory. All of the effects, if you remember, were kind of fanciful and more interesting than off-putting.
That's it. Perfect.
So we kind of had these souls grow out of him. We did a giant Freddy, actually. It was over 20 feet tall that was articulated, and we had performers actually inside a giant thin piece of rubber that pressed out.
You guys are squeaking. It sounds like an old rusty swing.
Then we blended a false body on the front of the wall that we had all of these bodies attached to, and all of the cables and umbilicals and controls coming through the body.
Okay, on 3. Come on.
Stand on it.
Okay, let's just shoot this. Okay, on 3. 1.
We'll get that out of my way on this side. Keep it on that side.
2, 3.
Blast out, fast, violent, hard. Oh, there we go. Attaboy, Bill. There's a winner every time.
It's probably a series of about 20 effects in a 4-minute sequence. So it was a lot of fun, actually. It was pretty successful.